system. I am an architect. Where others see problems, I see the system. Night falls. The doors are locked. The windows are closed. A mother and father think their home is safe. The child is in their room. They hold a small bright screen in their hand, and within that screen there are more open passages than all the doors in the house combined. A door doesn't have to be in a wall. Sometimes it's a connection. Sometimes it's an invitation to play. Sometimes it's a single sentence from an unknown account. Sometimes it's just an image tapped out of curiosity. People think danger is out there. Sometimes they're wrong. Outside is no longer just beyond the street. It can be as close as a notification, as silent as a search result. It can seem as innocent as a friend request. You wouldn't give a stranger the key to your home, but an app might ask for your child's location, voice, photos, and habits. You don't see it as a door because it has no hinges, it makes no sound, no wind blows in when it opens, only data flows out. This is the second door. Because it's invisible, it's unlocked in most homes. When a child looks at the screen, they don't just see content. The content looks back at them too. It measures how long they've been waiting. It remembers what they've been looking at. It learns which image they paused on. Then it prepares the next door based on their curiosity. This isn't always malicious, but it isn't always innocent either. A system's purpose may not be to protect the child. It may be to keep them inside for as long as possible. When a child's time, attention, and curiosity are turned into commodities, the screen is no longer just a tool. It's a marketplace, and the child, more often than not, is not the customer there but the product. It's easy to instill fear, taking away the phone, shutting off the internet, reading every message, monitoring every move, but protection is not the same as control. A cage also blocks outside dangers, yet it's not called a safe home because safety isn't just about blocking access. It's about giving them the power to recognize the right thing at the right time. A child shouldn't grow up fearing every stranger, but they must know that not every smiling face is a friend, not every connection is harmful, but they must learn to ask where every connection leads. Not every secret is bad. But if an adult asks a child to keep something secret, that secret is no longer innocent. Some dangers don't shout. They speak gently. They offer praise. They wait patiently. First, they demand trust. Then isolation. Then silence. The first line of defense for a child isn't software. It's an adult they can talk to. Because a frightened child hides things. A child who fears being blamed deletes things. A child who knows their phone will be taken away won't speak up, and what isn't spoken becomes darkness that the system cannot see. That's why a safe home isn't just about rules, it's also about having a way back, a place a child can turn to when they click on a bad link, a voice that will listen before punishing them when they make a mistake, a screen they can show without shame when a stranger messages them. Protection starts here, not through surveillance, through connection. But connection alone isn't enough, because a child can't recognize every risk, and an adult can't be by their side every moment. That's why a home must have digital boundaries, age-appropriate content, restricted contact options for unknown individuals, explicit permissions for location and camera, visible approvals for purchases and downloads, devices that know when to stay silent overnight. These aren't restrictions, they're the digital architecture of a home, but if the architecture isn't visible, the rules become arbitrary. An app is blocked, another path opens up, a word is banned, the same content returns under a different name. The child learns to bypass the system. The adult, meanwhile, thinks they're protecting them, because simply closing the door isn't enough. You need to know where the wall ends. Not everyone in a family needs the same rule. A 6-year-old child and a 14-year-old teenager do not pass through the same door. Protection changes with age. As trust grows, the space expands. As risk grows, the boundary narrows. But if the reason for the boundary isn't explained, the child sees it not as safety, but as power. and they'll look for a way to escape any power they don't understand. This is where the first mistake is made. Families declare war on technology. Yet, technology is not the enemy. Unmarked pathways are dangerous. Who can you talk to? What shouldn't be shared? When should you ask for help? If a stranger asks you for anything, should you stop talking immediately? If these questions have never been asked at home, even the strongest filter works alone. One day the screen glows silently. A new message arrives. The child looks at it. The house is still locked, but the second door may have already been opened. The second door doesn't always open to a stranger's face. Sometimes the child talks to someone they think they know, someone playing the same game, with someone who says they carry the same loneliness. Danger rarely reveals itself as danger. First, it establishes a connection, then trust, then a small privilege. Let's keep this conversation just between us. That's where the boundary shifts, because someone who wants to form a secret bond with a child first distances the child not from their family, but from their own intuition. They make the child think, only they understand me, only they listen to me. That's why digital protection isn't established solely within the device. It's also established in the silence of the home. Can a child ask questions without feeling ashamed? Can they come back when they've made a mistake? Some adults mistake trust for obedience. Give me your phone. Tell me your password. Open that message. But information obtained by force is not trust. It's temporary obedience. As the pressure increases, the truth moves elsewhere. To secondary accounts, to deleted conversations, to hidden apps. When a child learns to evade surveillance, they aren't safer. They simply become invisible. And invisibility is the first place danger loves to lurk. Protection should not eliminate a child's entire sense of privacy, because privacy is the breadth of one's personality. But privacy is not the same as a secret, and privacy is a person's own personal space. A harmful secret, on the other hand, is silence built on fear, shame, or threats. A child must understand this difference, but if someone asks them to delete messages, send photos, share their location, or hide things from their family, that is no longer a private space. It is a violation of boundaries. Algorithms move just as silently as strangers. An image appears, then a similar one follows, then one that's a bit more explicit. A child can be transported into a world they didn't seek out, simply by looking a few seconds longer. The system mistakes curiosity for intent. It mistakes hesitation for desire. Repetition is validation, and before the child can make sense of it, the content guides them. Dangerous content isn't always hidden behind a forbidden word. Sometimes it looks like beauty advice, sometimes a challenge, sometimes a joke. Sometimes it's a behavior everyone supposedly does. The child joins the crowd to avoid being alone. But the digital crowd is not a real community. It can be an echo chamber where no one takes responsibility. A behavior doesn't become safe just because a million people are watching it. Popularity is not proof of truth. It's merely the direction of attention. Instead of forbidding the child from doing everything, we need to teach them this. Who is showing you this? Why are they showing it to you now? What do they want you to do? Who benefits after you do this? These questions outlast filters, because apps change, names change, danger takes on a new face, but the intent often remains the same: to grab your attention, to test your limits, to isolate you, to demand data, images, money, or silence from you. If a family only memorizes app names, they'll have to start over with every new device. But if they recognize behavioral patterns, they'll spot the warning signs, even if the system changes. Still, talking alone isn't enough. At times, a child's curiosity gets the better of them. At times, they're afraid. At times, peer pressure takes precedence over reason. This is where the device itself can serve as a silent layer of protection. Limit messages from unknown accounts. Restrict age-inappropriate content. Turn off location sharing by default. making camera and microphone permissions visible, silencing nighttime notifications, requiring approval for purchases and downloads. But if these safeguards are set up secretly, the child will see them as a trap. If discussed openly, they become like a seatbelt. A seatbelt doesn't prevent the journey. It protects the body in the event of an accident. Digital boundaries should serve the same purpose, not to cut the child off from the world, but to make the weight of the world they'll encounter manageable for their age. The value of a boundary isn't determined by how strict it is, but by understanding what it protects. If a child understands the reason behind it, they can remember the boundary, not only when a parent is present, but also when they're alone. True safety begins here, in the internal boundary that persists even when supervision is gone, because one day the child will be left alone in front of the screen. A message will arrive, a link will open, someone will ask them to share a little secret. There may not be an adult by their side at that moment, but a phrase they've heard before might stay with them. You are never alone in any conversation that scares you, embarrasses you, or makes you want to hide it from your family. Close it, walk away, come and tell us. There's someone who will listen to you before any punishment is handed down. This phrase isn't an app, but sometimes it's a stronger protection than any app. You don't have to close every door to protect a child. You need to know which door opens where, because the world isn't made up solely of safe and dangerous areas. There are grey areas in between, games that seem innocent, accounts using familiar names, content presented as age-appropriate. A single boundary can't stop everything, but it can teach a child when to stop. This is where the first layer of family safety is established. A few clear rules at home: never send private photos. Don't share your location with someone you don't know. Don't trust an adult who asks you to keep something a secret. If you're scared, turn off your phone and come to me. If you make a mistake, tell me first. These statements should be short, because in a moment of danger, people can't remember long rules. But words alone aren't enough. The system must speak the same language. The child's device should quietly reinforce the boundaries set by the family. Settings that limit contact from unknown people, permissions for location, camera and microphone that are turned off by default, visible confirmation for app downloads and purchases, filters that limit adult content in search results. These don't make decisions for the child, they simply give the child time to think, because the power of danger often lies in its speed. A single tap, a single reply, a photo, a split-second decision. The protective layer extends that split second. It allows the child to pause and ask, who is this person? Why is this information being requested? Why am I being told to hide this from my family? A system should not answer the question on the child's behalf. It must create a space where the question can be heard. Families sometimes believe that a single app will solve all risks. But the digital world isn't made up of just one door. As one door closes, another may open. That's why protection shouldn't rely on a single tool. It must be layered: relationship, rules, device, network, support. Filters are no substitute for conversation. Conversation is also a technical boundary. If there is trust but no boundaries, a child may fall into a harsh world. If there are boundaries but no trust, a child may hide what they see. This is where balance is established. As the child grows, the system must also change. Tighter restrictions at a young age, rules explained as they get older, an expanding space, increasing responsibility. Trust is not merely a reward for perfection, it is the right to learn. If a child's entire freedom is taken away when they make a mistake, they will hide their next mistake. The purpose of boundaries is not to punish, but to help them find their way again. Sometimes a stranger has written something. Sometimes the child has responded out of curiosity. At that moment, the first question shouldn't be, "Why did you do that?" The first question should be, "Are you safe right now?" Then comes the conversation. The account can be blocked. Permissions can be revoked. But if the child's voice is silenced, these technical steps fall short, because the real event doesn't happen only on the device. It leaves a mark inside the child as well. Shame, fear, guilt. If a family closes the account but leaves the emotion open, the door will swing back in another way. Protection is as much about making sense of the incident as it is about ending it. That's why there should be a go-to phrase within the family, one that requires no explanation, one that doesn't spark an argument, just a phrase that calls for help. Something strange happened to me. When this phrase is heard, the focus should be on the child first, not the screen. First the child is listened to, then the child is protected, then the system is fixed. Some dangers exceed the limits of what a family can handle on its own. Threats, blackmail, requests for sexual content, stalking, requests to meet in person. In these cases, the conversation is not deleted, evidence is preserved, contact is cut off, trusted adults and, when necessary, relevant authorities step in. Silence plays into the other party's hands. Visibility, however, weakens their power. You don't have to completely overhaul your entire home today. Choose a device, check the permissions, check who can send messages, see where your location is being shared, then have a single conversation with your child, not based on fear, but on curiosity. If something strange happens to you online, can you come to me? The answer to this question is more important than all the settings combined, because the second door will never completely disappear. The world will create new gateways, new apps, new faces. Protection isn't about knowing every door in advance. It's about teaching your child which door to stop at, which to stay away from, and how to find their way home if they get lost. In this recording, I didn't just show you the danger behind the screen. I also showed you how a family can set boundaries without giving in to fear. You can find more about digital family safety and invisible risks at SHORT.LOG. I am the architect. We'll see each other again in the next recording. When that day comes, you'll understand why these recordings exist. System status, active. Protocol, 0.5, complete. Next protocol, the 36. Status, active.